Hey, what's up? This is Ron from Stepwise Media, and what we're going to do is we're going to continue along with our tutorial. This is part 2 in setting up an App Inventor build server using Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud. If you followed along in part 1, you're probably left with FileZilla. We've already installed Linux on our system, or already instantiated an instance of Amazon's EC2 32-bit Linux version. And with most Linux installations, they're going to come with an open JDK. But we're going to bypass that. We're actually going to install Sun's, Oracle Sun JDK version 6, update 30, which is probably the most stable build to date, or for App Inventor anyway. As of right now, they're up to version 7, update 2. And if we're looking in our we're in FileZilla. We should be at our home EC2 user folder. That is the default folder when you log in with FileZilla. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to the Java website. Now, this is the Oracle website with Sun's version of Java, the version of Java. And we're looking at JDK 6, i586 rpm.bin. Make sure that you accept the license agreement, and we're going to download JDK 6, update 30, Linux i586 rpm.bin, and we're just going to store that to our desktop for right now. So we're going to download JDK 6, save the file, and we're going to wait for this to download. It's going to take a couple of minutes, and we're just going to move that over to our desktop for right now, still in FileZilla. So with our FileZilla window open, we're going to select that download. We're in the EC2 user folder. And that is the default web folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to move that folder right into our EC2 user folder. We're basically going to upload that to our Linux server. And that's going to take a couple of minutes. So as that uploads, what we're going to do is we're going to come back, and if you remember, we had our PuTTY window minimized. We've got our JDK 6 update 30 uploaded. We're using the rpm.bin file from Oracle. We're going to copy that directory name just for now. We're going to open up our PuTTY window, and we're going to install this version of Java on our system. And we're going to type sudo sh and paste in the name of the file that we just copied. Just right-click and it should go right in there for you. Now, if you're using a different version of Java, which is not recommended, you're going to have to make sure that you sudo sh the correct name. But that's going to basically unpack Java onto our web server. And as that unpacks, now, just as I'd mentioned, most Linux installations are going to come with a default Open JDK version. We're using the Oracle Sun version, and what we have to do is we have to make sure that our server knows to instantiate our version of Java above all the other versions. So we're going to use an alternative method, and I'm going to paste links to these commands, but you're going to use a sudo alternatives, and you're going to have links in the description just so that you can copy and paste these in if you're using the same directories. And basically what we're doing is we're putting our version of Java ahead of the Open JDK version that's already installed on the server. So we're going to install, and then we're going to set our Java, and we should be done with the terminal window for right about now. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to unpack our App Inventor service. So we're going to unzip that to the desktop in a new folder. And we're going to click Extract. If you're running WinZip or 7-zip or some version, most zip files, if you're in Windows 7, Windows 7 has an unzipping tool built in. If not, you can get an open source unzip pretty easily. But you're going to unzip that to the desktop, and what we're going to do is we're going to separate. That folder contains two packages. One is for the build server, and one is for the actual instance of App Inventor that you would host with Google Apps. We're going to open this folder up, and we're going to pull out the for BuildServer file right over to our desktop. And we're just going to leave that there for now. And back in FileZilla, what we're going to do is just drag that right back over onto our server folder. So we're going to upload that to our server just by dragging it back over into the Linux. And that's going to take a couple of minutes to upload. So we just unpacked Java, we set our version of Java, we unpacked our BuildServer file, and now we're uploading the BuildServer file. And we're going to have to come back into the terminal window just for a couple more terminal commands. We've got our for BuildServer, and we're going to highlight that and copy that directory name because this is the newest version from January 20th. And we're basically going to unzip that. And that's going to be tar zxf, and then the name of the target file. And if we refresh this window, we're going to see where we just unpacked that directory. So now we have a new directory called for BuildServer. And what we're going to need to do back in our terminal window is basically navigate to that file folder. And real simple, with Linux and with most Windows terminal prompts, what you're really going to do is you're going to hit CD and then just start to type the name of the file directory you want to change to and hit tab, and that'll paste in. And you'll see where our directory has changed, and now we're in the for BuildServer directory in our terminal window. And you're just going to unzip that by running a quick command in the terminal window. And that's going to be our BuildServer tar file that we're untarring. So now if we come back and we hit refresh, we notice that it gives us a new folder that says lib. And that's basically our library files, our Java executable files that reside on our BuildServer. And now it's just a matter of coming back and launching the BuildServer. So we're going to kill the Java instances for right now. And if you're working in PuTTY, it's probably going to throw you a couple of odd messages. We're going to kill all Java if it's not already been killed. And then we're just going to type /launch-BuildServer. And that should launch our BuildServer. And we can double check this when we go back into FileZilla. We can double check this by hitting refresh. And that's going to give us a new folder called BuildServer.out or BuildServer logout. That's basically our outgoing log file. So BuildServer logout. Once you launch that, now we can run a couple of more commands to test this. And we're also going to have to do a little housekeeping here because if you remember correctly, we had our app BuildServer set up. And we're going to go into our security groups and we're going to open up a couple of ports. And the first thing we're going to do, if you click on Network and Security, and make sure that you're using the security group that you use to launch your instance with. But if you use Quick Launch 1, that would probably be the default, or Quick Launch 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up port 9990 because that is the default App Inventor BuildServer port. So we're going to type in a new custom TCP rule, 9990, and we're going to add that rule into our Amazon EC2. And we have to make sure that we apply that change. So apply rule changes at the bottom. Now we've opened up port 9990, and what we're going to do real quick is we're just going to open up a basic web port too, port 80, which is standard for HTTP. So we added that, and we're going to apply it. We don't need to do this, but in the event that you want to add a public page on your build server, which you would really have no need to. You've got a web port opened up. And that's pretty much it. Now what we can do is we can, from Amazon EC2, we can grab our public DNS. So we're going to copy that public DNS once again. And we're just going to open up a blank web page. And we're going to check and see from the internet if our build server is actually running. So we're going to paste that into a blank web page. With hyphen 9990 shows our port, /BuildServer/health. And that's going to come up with a message that says OK, or it should say OK at this point. Now we can also type in another command or another link, which is BuildServer vars. So we're basically at your web server instance, port 9990, BuildServer /vars. And that's going to show us the time and date that we set up our build server for App Inventor. And if you can see that our virtual machine is Java Hotspot and our virtual machine vendor is Sun Microsystems, just as we had set it up. We're not using OpenJDK, but we're using Sun, the Oracle Sun build of Java 6. And that pretty much wraps up on setting up the build server.